Mushoku Tensei Season 2 has started and I am not watching it. Surprisingly, I've been getting a lot of your comments asking about it. Since I have this channel, Foxen Talks, I could talk about it. First off, there's two aspects to this. There's the YouTube side and the actual Mushoku Tensei side. First off, you might have seen me bitching about this in Twitter. I know you've definitely seen other anime content creators complaining about this. If I recall correctly, it was back in Mushoku Tensei Season 1 where I tried to do the cut content videos for maybe 2 or 3 episodes. And then what do you know? Kadokawa hit them. Despite this being fair use, and yes, I've confirmed this is fair use. I've literally talked to a copyright fair use lawyer, spent the outrageous fees for that. But doesn't matter, Kadokawa and Japan doesn't want you to talk about this anime. From what I recall, Kadokawa is actually using this external company that basically just has their intern, their overworked Japanese person just going through your video, not even watching it and just flagging it. This really pisses me off. In the second core of the first season, they were just flagging your video for copyright content. On the bright hand, your video stayed up. Sometimes. The bad part about this, if you spent any time on your video, those 20, 30, sometimes 40 hours just went to waste. All that hard work for nothing. You didn't make any money, which I'm gonna get back to. So first off, I recall actually spending time and finding where the hell this company was. I actually found out they're in Shibuya, and I found the exact building and floor where they're located. I wanted to go over there and give them a piece of my ass. This was back when I was directly under Geeks Plus at the time. If you guys seen Trash Taste, you definitely know Mei Lin. I recall talking to her and her strongly advising not to go over there. So I held back. Fast forward to Mushoku Tensei Season 1, the second core. I really wanted to do videos about this, so I tried it. This is where you get into the aspect about how difficult it was actually creating these videos. To get them out as fast as I was, the goal being within 24 hours of the episode dropping, I had to work on this and combine with my editor at the time. I was waking up at 5, 4, as early as 3 a.m. in the morning, Japan time. Keep in mind, anime episodes drop at like midnight in Japan, so that's already a few hours late. I would work on the cut content notes for Mushoku Tensei for maybe 3, 4, sometimes 5 hours. I would try to record half the script, send that off to my editor so he could start working on it, continue on the notes, double check everything, and then record the second part, and then I would edit the second part, and then I would just polymerize the 2 parts together. You can imagine how much work that was. Oh god. This is getting to another side that I know people don't like hearing about, based on me talking about it in the past. Unless you're in the top 1% of YouTube like the guys at Trash Taste, and especially when you're working with the video editor and you're trying to get them to work as fast as possible, and that's going to cost you more. I'm not really sure what the rates are right now since I haven't really been consistently uploading, and Rona times, I'm not really sure how much that's changed. But at the time, just to pay for what the editor was working on, if the video didn't have a sponsor, which most of them did not, the video would have to get anywhere from, I think it was 100,000 to 150,000 views just so I could afford to pay the editor fee. And this is not even including taxes. I would have to go back and double check, it's been a while, but I think a lot of these videos didn't even crack 100,000 views. So yeah, I was going broke making these videos. The other aspect to this is going back to the first part. You had the companies flagging the videos. I would make nothing on some of those videos. I would just be losing more money. Anyway, I know there's some other anime YouTubers. I think there was Anime News that was maybe also covering some of the other Kadokawa series like Overlord. I don't know how they get away with it and not been struck. So that's the YouTube side to this. Then getting into the actual Mushoku Tensei. I was keeping up with the light novels at the time. Actually, this is related to the Mushoku Tensei cut content stuff. So if you know for Mushoku Tensei, like most series, it actually started as a web novel, then eventually became the official, more edited, concentrated version, the light novel. And there's also a manga to that. Let's see if I can remember the pain about all of this. You have the web novel, which I believe there's a fan translation about it, and it's available for free. So if you're interested in Mushoku Tensei, a lot of people would actually gravitate towards the web novel, where I eventually found out how different the light novel was compared to the web novel. There was one comment one of you guys left. This was back when Rudy was actually captured in the village. One of you guys asked me, hey, in the anime, they cut out Rudy actually practicing his magic. He was trying to fly, and then he fell down, and then he broke his legs. Jerry, why didn't you cover that in your video? To which I was like, what? What the hell are you talking about? So I quickly, briefly looked into it. And yeah, the web novel essentially putting it more out there how overpowered Rudy was, and that section was not in the light novel. So now you have essentially another thing to keep track of, because obviously people are more gravitating towards the free web novel as opposed to the light novel that you have to pay for, which was already bad in terms of trying to keep track of things. Then you throw in the Mushoku Tensei manga. It's not surprising that a lot of people do not like to read. And I can't blame them. If there's a manga available, I think even I'm going to gravitate towards that. The issue with the Mushoku Tensei manga, if I recall correctly, was that it is very different from the novel. If anything, it does almost a complete opposite. There are some points where Rudy went off by himself in the light novel / anime, but in the manga, Eris was with him. I think there was that castle attack when both of them went to storm the castle. In the anime, it wasn't like that. So now you have people asking, why is it so different? Why aren't you mentioning this, Jerry? So now that's another thing to keep track of. So you might be thinking the holy version, the best thing to read is just stick to the Mushoku Tensei light novel. Except there's an issue with that too. I forget what company actually translated the novel. You know, the perverted Rudy, he's done a lot of questionable things, and it looks like this translation company thought so too. For example, there was that scene, I think in the anime, where Eris was either asleep or pretending to be asleep, then Rudy went over there and teased her, doing something to her undies. I recall originally saying, oh, that was anime original, that was not in the light novel. Because it wasn't in the light novel. It wasn't in the English version of the light novel that originally was translated before the anime. I don't know how far this goes, but it turns out the Mushoku Tensei light novel has been censored. Any questionable things were either just removed, like, yeah, sections removed, or Rudy's pervertedness was just played down. Now I have to be comparing the English light novel to the Japanese version. And then if I'm going to be doing that, I might as well be comparing the Mushoku Tensei English web novel to the Japanese, because it's a fan translated one. If you haven't dealt with fan translations, I don't blame them at all. They're just doing this for fun. They're not main editors. Sometimes their Japanese isn't even that good. They're just trying their best. Hey, they're just fans of this stuff. So a lot of the times due to that, or them having their own bias towards the series, things may just not be correct. So this whole entire thing of the web novel English Japanese version, the light novel English censored version to the Japanese version, the manga too, that also had an English to Japanese thing that I was double checking. This just escalated way too much. And this video is already super long, so the last thing I'll mention about Mushoku, I was obviously reading the novel. I just started reading the Japanese version, and I'm not going to get into it, but I'll just mention really quick that I think the Mushoku Tensei has some of the best world building out of any series, probably only comparable to the SAO Alicization that I've read. It really does feel like it's trying to do Lord of the Rings, except the isekai Japanese version of it, in terms of world building, in terms of its fantasy element. Going forward though, it really made me dislike the Ruby character. And yeah, I know some of you will mention, well, he was a pervert from the beginning, he was very bad. And yeah, he eventually got better, but then got worse in other ways, being vague. And it made me realize Mushoku Tensei really does feel like a lot of other isekai series where it's just wish fulfillment. I don't know, maybe it's just me that thought this series was better from the get-go. I somehow didn't get spoiled on this particular fact about the series. So again, maybe that's on me. But then when I saw this series progressing in this way, I'm like, oh good God, I am so stupid for not realizing it. Again, being vague to avoid the spoiler. Especially now seeing it from a writing perspective, I don't really blame the Rudy character. It's more on the author. It just hit me. It was like seeing that Fullmetal Alchemist scene where everything just rushes into your head. I'm like, oh, there were so many things set up before this to enable this behavior. And I don't know, at the time I didn't really realize it, but I slowly just started distancing myself away from this series. As they say, time heals all wounds, and I'm eventually am going to start the Mushoku Tensei anime series. I need to for this other project that I'm working on. And who knows, maybe I'll see enjoy the anime interpretation of it. We'll see what happens then. Maybe in hindsight now, or just with the knowledge of the light novel and knowing what's to come, maybe I'll feel better about it. Maybe I'll feel worse about it. I'll be sure to make a video about it, especially after this season's over. I think they're doing a split course, so we'll see. But anyway, that is why I've not started Mushoku Tensei Season 2. Definitely share your thoughts. How is this season going? What are your thoughts about all of this? Do you like these deeper dives? I know this is something that would definitely not be popular on the main channel.